Hello, and welcome to the Millionaires of the Bible series, Nazareth Call. I want to thank you for tuning in. My name is Issachar Bey, and I am the Senior Director of the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center. I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your schedule to be on this call. It is my intention that you leave this call today with something that's impactful, from something that's mind-blowing, mind-renewing, something that begins to give you the inclination, the thought, the concept, the precept that you can expand your level of consciousness, that you can change and create your reality. That something out of this call this morning will give you the ability to reach within and begin to create and manifest the very thing that you desire, the very thing of your heart's desire. What you want to be, you can do and have in this season of your life. We are still in the month of September, and we are definitely still operating and teaching on prosperity for the whole month of September. And so we're excited about that, as we already were working with the Millionaires Consciousness on Sunday mornings. We are also working with the prosperity teachings on Wednesday nights. If any of you have missed the teachings on Wednesday night, please go to our YouTube page, which is the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center. And we definitely have all of our previous calls on there so you guys can listen. I also want to take the time out to send some love and light to many of those who have made any of those who have lost anybody in the 9/11 tragedy. We're just coming across commemorating the 20th year anniversary, and we want to send our love and light to those who have lost loved ones, those who have passed on and transitioned on. We want to send you much love and light and let you know that we, as a collective conscious body, are there to help you get through whatever it is that you need to get through, and also help you to go past that horrific, tragic moment and find that there's beauty in ashes, that we can move forward and create something good out of the memories of those that we have lost, those that have gone on. And so I just want to, all 17 of you on the call this morning that I see so far, I want to send my love and light to any of you that may have lost any loved ones who were on or affiliated or tragically impacted by that tragedy on 9/11. And so we just want to send much love and light. I also want to wish a happy birthday to all of those who are having birthdays in September. To all the Virgos, this is the season. I definitely want to wish a happy birthday to all of you. Hope that you guys are enjoying your birthday, enjoying your return around the sun, as they say, the happy solar return. A birthday is usually when I do readings and a person's birthday is coming up, I usually look at a solar return chart. And the solar return chart, what it does is it takes a snapshot of where the transiting sun is at the exact place that it was when you were born. And based on that position, it's a new set of, it's almost like a new chart. It's almost like your chart again, but this for the year. It only lasts for a year. And based on that chart, it's called a solar return chart, because the sun returns back to its original place where it was positioned, where you were born. And based on that chart, it gives me an outlook on what your year looks like. So if I'm going to do any kind of looking to the year to see what's going to happen to you or what things that you might encounter for the year, I also look at that chart. And then another thing that I use is I use ingresses as well. And I don't know why I'm telling you guys this, because somebody on this call needs to hear it. I'm getting pulled to go this way for a minute, so I'm just going to go. But we have 17 people on the call, so somebody on this call needs to hear this. And so what happens also, what I do is, in astrology, we use something called the Capricorn Ingress. And the Capricorn Ingress is done on when the sun goes into Capricorn usually on December 21st. And when that happens, we take a snapshot of where the planets are positioned for whatever state you live in, whatever city and state you live in. And based on that chart, I'll be able to tell you some things that you will experience in whatever city or state that you live in. So, for instance, if those of you on the call, somebody lives in D.C., Virginia, Connecticut, right? I'll take the Connecticut Capricorn Ingress, and I'll put you in there, and I can tell you what are some of the things you will experience in 2022. So just to give you a heads up of different things that we do and, and so forth. But I guess somebody needs to hear that. That's why we were going that way, but just wanted to wish happy birthday. I don't ever remember ever wishing anybody a happy birthday, so I don't know why Spirit is moving me that way. But to all of those who are on the call, if you're having a birthday, loved ones are having a birthday, we wish you a happy birthday. We're going to move into our teaching. We are in chapter 6 of The Millionaire from Nazareth. It's the yellow book with the gold star. Those of you can go on Amazon and get it. Once you go on Amazon, I believe you can either get the Kindle version or you can get the paperback. Now, I myself like the paperback because I like to be able to write, take notes, highlight, stuff like that. So we're going to be dealing with the prosperity law of continuation. The prosperity law of continuation from the loaves and fishes miracle. So we'll be looking at that today. The prosperity laws of continuation. I hope that all of us have been. I know personally, me, I've been seeing some great increase in my life, consciousness level. I mean, when you start talking about millionaires, right? When we start talking about millionaire consciousness, one of the things that happens is that we begin to figure out. Well, one may say, "Well, how do I become a millionaire?" Well, you have to become a millionaire consciousness first. But what I've been noticing since we started these millionaires teachings is that so many great ideas have come to me. I've wrote down so many ideas, different things that I definitely want to get implemented in. I've even had Spirit even kick me in the butt, so to speak, about some businesses and projects that I put to the side that I need to take off the back burner and start putting into fruition. So it's just a lot of ideas, concepts, different things that Spirit will bring into your life, different people, circumstances, and so we definitely need to be connected with people who are like-mindedness. And so being in that collective consciousness allows us to rise to that level of being a millionaire. And listen, from where we started to where we are now, what happens is each one of us, as we continue to operate in this millionaire's consciousness, what we are doing is we're not just doing this just to do this every Sunday, and then once the teachings are over, then we just go back to our regular lives. We're doing this to reprogram ourselves to make this a way of life. So now that our life continues to process and we continue to move in the concepts and the precepts that we've learned, because we are operating as millionaires of consciousness for longevity and legacy. We're not doing this just for a quick fix. We're doing this for longevity and legacy so that we can leave this teachings and teach this level of expanded consciousness to our children's children. And so we want to make sure that we move this from generation to generation, not just right now, just for us, but this is for our families. This is for our people who are connected to us, and so I'm excited about it. And, every time I get into these teachings, I just hear the words of Dr. Johnny Coleman say, it works if you work it. It works if you work it, but you got to work it. You got to apply it. You got to apply it. And if you apply it, Reverend Ike used to say, you can't lose with the stuff I use. But if you use it, you won't lose. But you got to use the stuff that he used. So, it's definitely something that's great. And so today we're looking at the prosperity law of continuation from the loaves and fishes miracle. The word continue means to go on without interruption or to begin after interruption. All of us are interested in the prosperity law of continuation. How do I operate in continuation? If things are getting interrupted, or if I'm somewhat thrown off course, or if something goes out of whack, how do I still maintain? If something is cut off, if I'm used to getting my resources and supply one way, and then all of a sudden it's cut off, and how do I still move in the prosperity consciousness of a continuation? That word continuation is very powerful to me, because what that means is that the show must go on. It means that if anybody leaves out of my life, if any situations get closed, doors get closed in my life, people walk out of my life, and whatever happens, I'm still want to operate in that level of continuation. I still want to be able to maneuver and manifest and still keep going, regardless of what happens or don't happen in my reality. And so we will begin to learn how to operate. Jesus gave those mystic sets for continuing one's supply when he multiplied the loaves and fishes to feed the thousands. And this came out of Matthew, the 14th chapter, 13 through 21. The secret for developing a prosperity consciousness is you must learn the philosophy of prosperous thinking and how to apply its specific prosperity principles. First thing we got to do is learn the philosophy of prosperous thinking. Prosperous thinking is the philosophy, the understanding of why we're thinking this and how to think prosperous, how to consciously have the prosperous thinking on our minds. As a man thinketh, or as a mind thinketh, so is he. That when the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, we understand that word heart meaning subconscious mind. So what it means is, as a mind thinketh in his, so is he, right? The psychology of the prosperous thinking is, this is something we do all the time. This is not what we do sometimes. It's an old saying that says, you are what you eat. And I have to ask you a question, what are you eating? Because if you're constantly now to partake of, to take mentally, is to eat. Whatever you pull in mentally, whatever you take in consciously, you eat, right? What thoughts and concepts are you pulling in to yourself, pulling within, right? If you are constantly pulling in prosperity thoughts and constantly pulling in that, then that's what you're eating, and you become what you eat. But if you're constantly pulling in drama, if you're constantly pulling in gossip, if you're constantly pulling in negativity, if you're constantly pulling in lack, limitations, if you're constantly pulling in worrying about problems, those things will continue to grow, because that's what you're feeding yourself. So you got to be very careful about what are you feeding yourself, because you are what you eat. The next thing they talk about is you must get busy applying and practicing those enchanting formulas over and over. To do so gives you an inner hold on the rich substance of the universe, which then produces satisfying outer results for you. Now, what we do here is we apply these prosperity principles over and over, repetitiously, right? Constantly. Just practice them every day. Practice them in every situation that you use. Practice these prosperity formulas till you become one with them, where there's no separation between you and these prosperity principles, right? And to do so gives you an inner hold on the rich substance of the universe, that rich substance within. When by doing so, you're also allowing yourself to tap into the inner supply. That inner supply is unlimited. So in reality, this is one of the keys of the continuation, that no matter what happens on the outside, what happens, as long as I continue to constantly, repetitiously work these principles and these precepts and concepts over and over again, I'm actually allowing myself to activate the rich substance of the universe, which then produces satisfying outer results for you. Remember, everything happens on the inside out. On the inside out. And so a lot of times when people come to me for consultations and just dealing with situations and circumstances about life, and they tell me what they're going through, the first thing I do is go inside. What's going on inside? Because if we're going to get if we're going to get a hand on or really bring this thing into subjection of what's really going on in the outside or in the physical reality, we got to go inside, because that's where the problem is. That's where the root of the situation is. That's how we're able to change and manage what goes on in the physical world. We got to go inside. But a lot of times we don't want to go inside because we don't want to deal with some of the things that we may have to deal with inwardly that we feel. I tell people this all the time. The greatest fight you're going to ever fight in your life is the fight against yourself. Because many of us, we don't want to deal with ourselves. We don't want to face ourselves. But in order to become a master of the universe, of your universe, a master of your mind, to master your mind, you got to be able to face yourself, the good, bad, and the ugly. You got to be able to face it, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to go within and make those changes, and then allow those changes to be perfected and changed on the outside. So we see that these are the ways of the implementation here. Jesus' first two steps in turning lack into abundance through prosperous thoughts and words. And Jesus has spent the entire day healing the multitude who had followed him to the desert place. His disciples came to him and said, "There is a desert, there's a place, this place is a desert, and the time is already past. Send the multitudes away that they may go into the villages and buy themselves food." But Jesus paid no attention to this negative report in the face of lack. First, he invoked a prosperous attitude. He used no power of the mind and refused to believe in or be hypnotized by the power of lack. So here the disciples are coming to Jesus and telling him, like, listen, there's no food. There's a lack here. We have a shortage. Let's send the multitudes away. Jesus automatically says to him, no. No, we're not going to send the people away, and I'm not going to be hypnotized by the illusion or the appearance of lack. If you're on this call this morning, it's 24 people so far on this call. If you're on this call this morning and you are facing lack, I want you to know this morning that you need to, in your mind, say, no, I'm not going to accept the lack. I'm not going to be hypnotized by the appearance of lack. He spoke prosperous words and made an astonishing statement in the face of lack. They have no need, he says, they have no need to go away. Give ye them to eat. He says to the disciples, we have enough. We have plenty to spare and to share. Now, the crazy thing about life is that we have been in our life taught to live outside in instead of inside out. And so sometimes it's very hard to not unsee or not get connected to what's going on in the physical reality, because some of us can be so earthly minded that we're no heavenly good, or we could be so heavenly minded that we're no earthly good. But we want to be able to find the balance. Finding balance brings us to a place where we are able to not allow what happens in the physical and our physical reality dictate to us what we have or what we know. We just read and understood that we have the unlimited rich substance of the universe within us. We have that within us, which means that there's an unlimited supply. And whenever you are facing lack in your life, it literally means that there's a limitation in your mind. There is no lack. It doesn't exist. If you find yourself in a desert place, a part that seems barren of goods, you don't see any resources, you don't see anything happening, invoke a prosperous attitude. There it is, talking about implementing the philosophy of positive thinking. Now, in order to invoke a prosperous attitude, you have to also incorporate feeling, which means that I can't just say, you know what, regardless of what's going on in my life, I believe that I'm blessed, highly favored, that I'm wonderful. You can say all of that, but you also want to invoke your feeling nature as well, because your feeling nature is actually what's going to bring in the magnitude of this transformation. So you're going to invoke the prosperous attitude, but at the same time, you're not going to allow yourself to be hypnotized by the appearance of lack. Speak words of abundance. I have enough. I have plenty to spare and share. I have more than enough. My cup runneth over. I have more than enough, and my cup runneth over. The feeling nature, it works magnificently. You know, when I first moved to San Antonio, I began teaching out of a metaphysical bookstore called Unlimited Thought. I went there, talked to the owner. He had classrooms in the back, and he let me use the classrooms. He had everything set up. He had all the tables and chairs, video projectors, everything. And I would just advertise, and and I would teach out of my book, The Art of Manifestation: 6 Keys to Creating Your Own Reality, which you guys can get on Amazon. And I began teaching that class, and what was so amazing to me was because I taught many, I would say, sectors of the class, but the first class that I taught, everybody in the class, and this was amazing to me, at least 90% of the people in that class at the first class were all going through a divorce. And I found that very interesting, because I had to ask Spirit, here I am teaching the art of manifestation, and everybody in this class is going through a divorce. So what does that mean? How do we unpack this? And I begin to deal with everybody on a one-on-one basis as to, what does this look like? Where are we at in our life? Are we going to move into the divorce sector? Are we moving back to maybe reuniting? Just putting everything out on the table, looking at everything from a spiritual connotation. But anyway, one of the gentlemen in the class, he had a real hard time invoking his feeling nature. He just allowed life to beat him down. He had a lot of issues with the wife, and I began to work with him one-on-one and begin to work with him on the inside and A lot of the things I was telling him, he thought I was crazy. I was telling him, I say, look, you are operating from the outside. You got to go within. And he began to utilize some principles and different things, and it was amazing about his testimony, because I always tell people this: if you're in a relationship and you're on this call, and you're on this call, when couples come to me for counseling, they always point at each other. It's his fault. It's her fault. He did this. She did this. He did this. He did this. I need him to do this. He needs to change. I tried to change him. What you have to realize is, if you're in a relationship with somebody, you don't do anything to the other person. You don't try to change them. You don't blame them. What you do is you change you. And if you change you, the other person has to change, because they will have to be able to shift their level of consciousness to be able to dwell at the level that you're at. So they have to switch. You don't have to say anything to them. And this is one of the things that I told the gentleman that was in the class. I said, listen, don't argue with her. Don't, get into the arguments, the fights, or whatever you feel like. I said, listen, you got to know how to operate from within. You got to learn how to create your reality from within. And I began to teach him how to move from within. And he was amazed at how the situation had flipped by him implementing the same principles that we talk about every week. So that's why I say it's very powerful, and it's very, you really see some things happening when you start applying these principles to your life. When you start using this stuff, it really works. It really works. And it's almost magical how it works. And this is somebody who didn't believe anything. He didn't believe in the metaphysics. He wasn't into none of that stuff. He just wanted to know how to manifest a better life for himself. He happened to see the advertisement of my class. He came in. He didn't believe in none of this stuff. He called it wishy-washy stuff or whatever. But I told him, I said, listen, if you use this stuff, just try it. Just trust me and use these principles that we're teaching. I want you to see the results that you will get. And he did it. And it was absolutely magnificent. And, I was just very blown away and had to really tap into spirit as to why me teaching an art of manifestation class, the majority of the people in the class were going through a divorce. And I found that very interesting, but it turned out to be absolutely wonderful. Some great testimonials, great things happened. People were definitely blessed. It was a whole lot of things, other groups and different things were created. So it was absolutely phenomenal. And one of the things I learned about that class was there's no mistakes, there's no accidents in life. Everything happens on purpose. I tell people this all the time. When you are a child, you're under your parents' parental guidance. When you're an adult, you become a volunteer. So under your parents' parental guidance, you're a victim. Whatever happens, you're under their parental guidance, so you're a victim. But once you become an adult, you now become a volunteer. Anything that happens in your life, you volunteered for it. You signed up for it. And so we have to come to the realization that we choose our sorrows, our joys and sorrows, long before we experience them. And we find the place where now we're moving and getting into this level of consciousness where we are actually applying these techniques and applying these things to our lives. When Jesus said of the multitude of hungry people, they have no need to go away, give ye them to eat, the reply was, we have here but 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Jesus said, bring them hither to me. So now we're getting ready to see in Matthew 14:18, Jesus is getting ready to do the miracle of the fishes and the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. He's getting ready to perform the miracle, right? And the loaves and fishes have significant prosperity symbology. In the East, bread was the main food. It was considered sacred. The bread which Jesus multiplied did not merely mean food, it symbolized all things that man requires for a healthy, free, harmonious life. These 5 loaves symbolizes the good you desire in life, whether it be greater health, wealth, or happiness. The fish symbolize the increase of that desired good as expanded health, harmony, and prosperity in your life. Jesus worked essentially in the realm of ideas rather than the realm of effects. He often used fish to illustrate his prosperity teachings because fish are the most prolific of all things. The fish was an ancient art symbol. It was fertility. It was a fertility sign denoting the power of increase. Fish symbolizes ideas of abundance, which multiply when used. So we see here the concept of what bread means. We see that fish was symbolized as a symbol of increase. And as we go into the further chapters, you will get to see how Jesus instructed us or will teach us how to use fish. Fish represent ideas. That's why when man goes fishing, he goes to get ideas. And guess what? Money chases ideas. So we definitely want money to chase us. We don't want to chase money. Money chases ideas. And so we see here the significance of the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. After receiving the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, Jesus put things into divine order. He told the multitudes to sit down on the grass, to get quiet, and get ready to receive. When you begin to get things in order in this way, you can meet the problem of lack victoriously. Here's what he says: to sit down, to get quiet, and get ready to receive. To sit down, get quiet. Let's get all the noise. Let's get focused, because we're getting ready to receive. When you are receiving, it is just as magical, it is just as abundant, and just as wonderful as giving. But learning how to receive, learning how to getting things in order when you are in that place. If anybody on this call, we're at 29 people now. If there's anybody on this call who's been operating in lack, and as we begin to operate in lack, I told you that whenever lack is present, it means that there must be a limitation somewhere, a limitation in consciousness. So the only lack that you would ever experience is the lack or the limitation that any one of us on this call will ever experience will be the lack or the limitations of your mind. Jesus was able to turn the tables on lack when he did this, by getting the multitudes to sit down, be quiet, and getting the position to receive. After Jesus brought about divine order, he took the substance at hand, the bread, and the idea of increase, the fish, and looking up to heaven, he blessed it, broke it, and gave it out to the multitudes. If you look up, you will always be provided for. Now, what's amazing here is that the first thing he did was he looked up to heaven. Whenever you look up means that he automatically went to a higher level of consciousness. I've always said this, Einstein said this best: whenever you're dealing with a problem, you can never deal with a problem on the same level that it has come. You must learn how to elevate and move to a higher level in order to handle that problem. But many of us, we try to handle problems on the same level they come to us. What ends up happening is we start looking at our problems through a magnifying glass, and we make our problems bigger than what they are. we magnify them 100 times bigger. So a small little minute problem that we had, guess what? We've made this thing 100 times bigger than what it is. And so now we get anxiety, we get worried, we start listening to what the news say, we start listening to what everybody else says, not realizing that we are in control. We give up our control, because I tell you this all the time, everybody on this call, please, all 29, listen to this. Anytime you reach out of yourself and reach out of yourself out into the open, into your physical reality, for something that you depend on, for something that you are getting assurance, that you're getting acceptance, or getting anything from outside of yourself, you give that thing power over you. You never want to give up your power to anything outside of yourself, because you want to be at all times able to command or to operate in power. God in you, not God outside of you, God in you. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within you. It's not outside of you, it's within you. And if it's within you, you cannot go outside of yourself to look for anything, for the kingdom is within. So we got to be able to operate from within. We got to be able to go within ourselves and begin to utilize and get what it is that we need from the inside. You don't want the attention from the outside. You don't need the love from the outside. Because guess what? Anytime you go outside of yourself, everything you get is temporary. It says it. The Bible says anything that is tangible, that is in the physical realm, is temporary. But that which is eternal, that which is intangible, is eternal in the heavens. So you want to be able to move into a place where you are able to always be able to look up. Always look up. As he looked up to heaven, the first thing he did was look up, because he had to shift his consciousness to a higher level. He had to go to a higher level of consciousness to be able to do the things that you're doing. Those of you that need money, those of you that are in lack, those of you that are in any situation that you need, all you got to do is just look up, raise your level of consciousness and look up. And as you elevate your level of consciousness, what happens is this. Listen to the key. Listen to this. I tell you all the time, everything you do in consciousness is the cause. The effect has to also be, it also has to be guaranteed that the effect will take place in the physical reality. We talked about this last week on the call with the Lord's Prayer, the prosperity from the Lord's Prayer, where it says, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. The heaven is your mind. As it is in your mind, so shall it be on earth. But guess what? You've got to be able to have it in your mind first. You got to be able to look up into consciousness. Now, when you go up to a high level of consciousness, when Jesus looked up and went to a high level of consciousness, guess what happened? There was a shift in the physical atmosphere as well. Because you can't go to a high level of consciousness in the spiritual realm and it don't affect what happens in your physical reality. So that's why anytime there's a lack, loss, limitation, there's a problem, we always want to look up. We're looking up means to shift, to go to a high level of consciousness. Because when we go to that high level of consciousness, it's also going to be a shift in our physical reality that will help us implement the solution to the problem at hand. And this really is what the prosperous law of continuation is. Because these multitudes, the disciples came to Jesus, said, there's no food. We don't have enough food to feed the masses. They were like, let's send the people away. Jesus says, no, we will not send the people away, and I will not believe or be hypnotized by the appearance of lack. But what Jesus is saying is that I'm going to show you guys how to implement the law of continuation. I want to show you how to continue to still move in continuation regardless of what's going on in the outer realm, regardless of the lack, loss, limitation that you may see. I want to show you how to move in continuation. It's something about continuation, being able to still move in continuation and can still operate and continue regardless of what's happening. I believe that this is a very key principle that we're learning today, the law of continuation. He therefore looks up to heaven. He blessed, broke, and gave out the multitudes. Also remember the astonishing statement of abundance that Jesus had made in the face of lack. They have no need to go away. Give ye them to eat. In like manner, declare these words of abundance in the face of lack. There is plenty to meet this need. There is always enough. Now listen to me. One of the things you have to realize is this. We have to stop. We have to really, when you start operating in the level of consciousness, you got to learn how to operate in the level of spirituality and leave the physical realm alone. What I mean by that is this. When you're dealing with a problem, a circumstance, lack, loss, or limitation, and you are still trying to operate in the law of continuation, what you got to learn how to do is you got to learn how to go to a high level of consciousness and then allow spirit to guide you and give you the divine wisdom and the divine direction on how to move and operate. And what I mean by that is don't go to a high level of consciousness and try to figure out how the situation is going to get handled. Don't worry about how the situation is going to get handled. Just make sure that you are operating the principle of going to the high level of consciousness. I think sometimes we block out, we get in our own way because we're trying to figure out how is this situation going to happen? How is my prosperity going to come to me? How is I've been manifesting funds. How are these funds going to come to me? How am I going to move and elevate and operate and all these things that I have going on? How are these things going to happen to me? You know, we're worrying about how and when only thing that we need to worry about is the essence of utilizing and implementing the prosperity principle. Because once you implement the prosperity principle, you don't have to worry about anything else. For every cause, there will always be an effect. It's impossible for us to create a cause in the spiritual realm and it not happen in the physical reality. For every action, there's a reaction, right? Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. Seed time and harvest will always be forever, right? So the same thing for cause and effect. We are implementing the law of continuation that no matter where lack is, no matter where, if we run into a brick wall, if we walk in and we're on our journey and we get stuck, you know, the law of continuation is also the ability to pivot. You know, many of us had to learn how to pivot last year. Perfect example. We're going on our way. We are living our lives, and all of a sudden we get hit with this crisis, the pandemic. And people are looking at loss, lack, limitation, and we are learning the law of continuation. That when things seem like everything is dried up, everything is closing down, there's a scarcity in the land, there's a drought, how do we still operate and still move in the law of continuation? And we still operate, and many of us learn how to pivot. Many of us learn how to maneuver and switch and shift our positioning, shift our level of consciousness, right? Go to a high level of consciousness and allow the universe to give us divine wisdom and divine direction on what to do and how to do it. There's nobody on this call by mistake, all 29 of you. Everybody's on here for a reason. I don't believe in no accidents, no mistakes. Everybody on this call, you were not an accident. You were not a mistake. I know sometimes you may have heard some stories and they say, oh, you wasn't planned. You was a surprise on us. We wasn't expecting you to come, or, you know, whatever happened with your parents or whatever situation you had growing up. There's no accidents or no mistakes. Everybody on this call is here for, you were born with a purpose. You were born with a destiny. There's a gift. There's a talent in you. And as the old saying says, there's 2 days of your life that are the best days. The day you were born and the day you find out why. So we look inside of ourselves to find our purpose, to find our destiny. To find the ability to really transcend and to really pull in and magnetize the very thing that we want. And as we do that, we'll see ourselves moving and elevating to that level. Now, one of the things that I love too is Jesus looks up, he blessed it. The word bless means to make whole by spoken words. Jesus proved that the act of blessing had a mystical multiplying power. The act of blessing still carries the same power to produce increase today, which means that whatever you are involved in, whatever you're doing, learn how to bless what you're getting ready to do. Learn how to bless it, how to give thanks, and how to bless what it is that you have, what it is that you're getting ready to do. When you get into that high level of consciousness and you're operating by divine wisdom and divine direction, you'll be able to really see some things. Listen, it's just amazing when you operate at this level of consciousnness, how everything locks in. So I told you guys before, I did a Wednesday call. September the 1st was a Wednesday. I did my Wednesday call. Spirit had me following divine wisdom, divine guidance, divine direction. Spirit told me to start teaching on prosperity for the whole month of September, and I declared that the direction, the word of September, was for us to operate at the prosperity consciousness. This is Wednesday night. Thursday morning, I get on a phone call with Reverend Israel, and we start talking, and he starts to prophesy and speaking to me, and he tells me the same thing that Spirit already had told me, which was a confirmation. So when you are operating by divine wisdom and divine insight, there's no mistakes, there's no accidents. Everything will align up to what it needs to do. Everything will align up to what it needs to be. Way back before Reverend Israel left, those of you who had sowed the seed and you had the reading with me, and I'm getting so many phone calls now, even last week, of so many people that I gave the readings from back then, that stuff that I told them that was getting ready to take place and happen is starting to happen, and they're calling me and they're like, oh my God, Issachar Bey, you're not going to believe this. Everything you said down to the T is happening. This, even down to the dates that you called out, right? We're operating in divine wisdom. We're operating in divine insight. This stuff works if you work it. The law of continuation. Somebody on this call may be going through a relationship issue, a relationship crisis, maybe going through a divorce, maybe going through a separation, right? The law of continuation. Regardless of what's going on, learn how to continue. Don't let any lack, loss, or limitation come into your life. Learn how to operate this law of continuation. Jesus gained an inner control of substance. He never let down. He never gave in to the appearance of lack. He never took his hand off the visible supply. Once he began to bless, break, and pass out what he had, he continued to do so, though it were endless. Jesus proved that man not live by bread alone. He can develop an inner consciousness of supply which feeds and prospers. When one is functioning from the inner level of prosperous thinking, the outer supply appears as needed. This is true prosperity at its best. Listen, we are operating at a prosperity consciousness this month, right? We are learning the millionaire conscious teachings on Sundays. But listen, this is it right here. When you develop an inner consciousness of supply and you're functioning from this inner level of prosperous thinking, your outer supply will appear as needed, because the inner, your ability to maintain that inner level of prosperous thinking It's connecting you to the rich substance of the universe within yourself. Remember, the kingdom of heaven within you. God is within. There is no God in the sky. God is within you. And so when you realize the power of your prosperous thinking, you realize that your outer supply will appear as it's needed. This is the key to operating at the prosperity level. And what it tells me is that we need to be focused on really creating a prosperous thinking kind of life, where we're constantly working on our prosperous thinking. And it needs to be an ongoing process. Nobody on this call is perfect. We don't expect you to be perfect. None of us are perfect, but we can be striving for perfection. We can be striving every day, day by day, take steps to work towards shifting our consciousness to always operate in prosperous thinking, because we know that if we continue to operate in prosperous thinking, that our outer supply will appear as it's needed in the physical reality. Because we're already operating at that level of prosperity thinking, which means that we have already tapped into the rich universal supply from within. It gives us that ability to become masters over our own universe and to walk and to operate as masterminds, mind over matter. The rich substance of the universe flows under your hand in an unending stream of plenty. If you keep your hand on that stream of plenty by blessing it and affirming it, it is enough. You can break substance in any form and any amount as the need arises. When the mind centers its attention upon divine substance, which is the foundation of all wealth. Divine substance is the foundation of all wealth. So, I gave a definition on Wednesday night. To me, my definition of wealth is this. Wealth is the ability to fund all your dreams. That's what wealth is, the ability to fund your dreams. To be rich means to just have money, right? But to be wealthy is the ability to create more money, but to be able to finance your own dreams. Now, it says here that divine substance is the foundation of all wealth, right? When your mind centers its attention upon divine substance, the foundation of all wealth, long enough and strong enough, this mental action breaking causes invisible substance to appear as visible results. Thousands of few, the rich substance of the universe is sufficient to provide abundantly. Now let's look at this. When you operate with divine substance, which is the foundation of all wealth, the divine substance they're talking about is already within you. But when you are able to put your mind, when you're able to connect your mind to it, focus enough, long enough, strong enough, this mental action will cause the breaking and cause the invisible substance to appear as visible results. So this goes back to what we just read, where it talks about when one is functioning from the inner level of prosperous thinking, the outer supply appears as needed. That's exactly what happens. When you focus long enough, strong enough, and by focusing on that divine substance, you are breaking the invisible substance to appear as visible results. When you are dealing with the desert or garden or substance abounds, neither circumstance nor numbers need to I would say, misdirect you or throw you off, right? If you remain released, relaxed, and casual, you can cause your good to multiply as needed. Release means to let go of any stress, any limitation, any worry, anxiety, right, and relax. But when you take your hands off of the inner stream of substance by criticizing it and saying it isn't enough, then you lose your inner hold on substance. Also, your tension stops your good. So we got to realize that we can't never take our hand off of the inner stream of substance by criticizing it or by allowing ourselves to look from the physical reality and say, oh, that's not enough. There's always enough. There's always more than enough. And so operating from the law of continuation teaches us that there's always going to be more than enough. There's never going to be a lack, a loss, a shortage of anything. Now, one of the things I've learned, I was watching Spirit hit me hard one day. This is about a couple of weeks ago. When I wake up in the morning, I like to watch CNBC, and I just like to watch to see what the stock market is doing, to see what these guys are talking about, which companies are doing this and which companies are merging, and, you know, just all the financial stuff. And what it hit me one day was Issachar. Money never leaves the world. So there's never a shortage of money. There's never a lack of money because money never leaves the world. People live their lives, they transition, they pass on. They cannot take the money with them. So what that means is that there is never a shortage. The money that was here 1,000 years ago was still here. Money never leaves. But what it means, what it also tells me is that I need to be in a position to now allow that abundance to flow into me. Because it's here on earth, it's available, it's made available to me. Because it can never leave. So there's no shortage, there's no lack. The only shortage of lack is in my mind and me opening up my mind to allow those finances and those funds to come my way. So that's what divine wisdom, divine guidance is allowing me to be in a position to, when I operate in my millionaire consciousness, that I'm in a position to receive, to allow those millions of dollars to come into my life through whether it's a business, a connection, or whatever it is that I'm doing, to allow the universe to create the events to make that happen. But there's no shortage, there's no lack. Money is not going anywhere. And so I when I got that revelation, I was really excited because it really, really put me in a great place. So let's look at this process. We bless what's on hand. We pass it out in a relaxed way to meet the need, then watch it multiply in unforeseen ways. If we follow the prosperity steps given in this loaves and fishes miracle, there is no numbering of the avenues through which supply may come to you. Your resource is far-reaching as the universe. There's no way that we can't manifest and go into fruition the very things that we're operating with and the very things that we're using to activate and practice this law of continuation. I want to say this affirmation. In a financial desert place, I take control in consciousness. I turn my back on the appearance of lack. Instead, I speak words of abundance. There is always enough. I then establish divine order by telling the multitude of needs to get quiet, sit down, and get ready to receive. I take whatever I have on hand, look up, bless it, break it, and begin spending it forth in an endless stream of plenty. If I look up, I will always be provided for. I start breaking according to the need. Once I start meeting the need, I do not let down. I remain relaxed as I keep my hand on the steady stream of plenty. I keep meeting the need in an uplifted state of mind. I am not tensed or anxious. Instead, I send out what I have with praise and blessing. I praise God for plenty as I remain in control of my thinking. I am able to meet every demand. There may even be an abundance left over through this process. I shall find that no place in is truly barren of good. There is no numbering of the avenues through which my good can come to me. My good is far reaching as the universe. So my good now continues to multiply in both expected and unexpected ways, even to the point of lavish abundance. And so it is. I think that this teaching today was absolutely phenomenal. I really got a lot out of it myself. I hope that we can take these laws that we've learned today and begin to implement them and use them. I want to definitely, as we have said, we're moving in our prosperity consciousness for the month of September, and I'm excited. This week, I will be going to New York City. So I believe on Wednesday, I will be going to New York City for a couple of days. So I will actually be doing both calls in New York City. I'll be doing a Wednesday night call in New York City, and I'll also will be doing next Sunday's call in New York City. So I'm really excited about that. It really, utilizing those teachings and really connecting with those like-minded. I'm going back to New York just to see family and just to, get some things in order for what's getting ready to come. So we're excited about that. I want those of you who can, the 29 of you who are on this call, we are in our circulation part where we're going to be circulating. We are operating just for the month of September. We are operating with the prosperity seed of $91.11. Reverend Israel gave us this. He gave us this revelation, and we begin to work with it. Many of you have already done the 91.11 on Wednesday, but I want those of you who are on the call to sow into and to tap into this circulation. We believe that what you release will turn back to you 100-fold return. And as we begin to move and operate in this prosperity consciousness, we're operating and utilizing the $91.11. The $91.11 actually comes up to the number 3, which is the number of expansion, right? It's the number of self-expression, which means that I love that number 3 because the number 3 says to me that the very things that I'm working on the inside, the very things that I'm manifesting on the spiritual conscious level, I'm now getting ready to self-express. I'm getting ready to take it from the inner realm and make it tangible and put it into my physical reality. And so I think that the number 3 is an awesome number. It's the number of writing. It's the number of communication, right? It's the number of travel because the number 3 is also ruled by the planet Jupiter, right? It's a phenomenal number. It's a fortunate number, a number of abundance. And so those of you that will take heed to do the $91.11 seed, we know that your life will never be the same as you move into a level of self-expression, as you move into a period of abundance and a period of fortunate events that will take place. Because the planet Jupiter, that's what it does. It brings fortunate events to you. It brings the fortunate abundance into your life. Those of you that are going to sow the seed now, I normally don't call out how many people are on the call, but this is something else. I'm following my master teacher, my mentor, Reverend Israel, and he tells me now to call out the numbers on the call. All 29 of you, those of you that will do the seed, if you don't have the 91.11, I want you to sow your best seed. Put something into the ground. Put anything. Do not let yourself not be involved in this prosperity conscious move. make sure you put your best seed in the ground. There's 4 ways that you can sow. The first way is Cash App. It's $TOESC. Again, that's TOESC. The second way is going to be PayPal, which is going to be Issachar, ISSACHARBEY @gmail.com. The third way is going to be Zelle, which is going to be also Issachar Bey @gmail.com. That's ISSACHARBEY @gmail.com. We also have Venmo, which is going to be the @ Issachar, ISSACHAR-Bey, BEY. And those are the 4 ways that you can sow. I see here that some of you are sowing right now. That's coming through. I want to thank all of you who are sowing. Even if you don't have the 9111, put your best seed, put something in the ground, because I want you to be part of this prosperity conscious movement that's going forward. I want you to be in the midst. I want you to have a seed in the ground, because it's the seed that will also give you the supply for your need. For whatever you need, you always want to sow the seed for the need, right? Who you sustain will always determine how you're maintained. And we understand and know that what we release and let go of, it circulates back to us 100-fold return. And so we believe that, and we honored. When I go to New York this week, I'm going to be really connecting and really doing some good networking and so forth. I want to try to do Sunday's call out of Times Square, so that's going to be exciting. I'm working with some of the New Thought metaphysical groups out there, and I may be doing something live, so I'll keep you guys posted. I also sent out a newsletter, I think last night. I'm just trying some new things, and we're really moving and trying to expand, and really doing a lot of advertisements and different things. As those of you may not know, but every week so far since we've been doing this call, it seems like it's growing. We're at 29 people. I believe this is the most that I've had on my call since we've been doing these teachings, and I'm just excited. Also want to remind you guys to definitely go to our YouTube page, which is the Temple of Enlightenment International Spiritual Center, and like, share, and subscribe to the channel. So even if you're not able to listen to the call, you will get a notification as I always put up all of the calls on there. So we definitely want you guys to stay connected and definitely stay. I also want to say this. I have to do this by divine inspiration and divine wisdom. I want everybody on this call to continue to work on building your immune system, whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated. You definitely want to make sure that we are constantly building our immune system. I'm just saying that we also need to be at a level of health consciousness. And those of you that have children and families, let's make sure that as a family, we are continuing to build up everybody's immune system. We want to make sure that we're staying strong spiritually, physically, and mentally, and that we are in great health. Well, we understand that health is the wealth. So we want to make sure that we are in great health and continuing to build our immune systems. So I'm excited about this week. As we move into this week, I want everybody to focus on what it is that you are going to be manifesting. What prosperity formulas, what prosperity concepts can you focus on and utilize every day of this week until you start basically continuing to make your prosperous thinking stronger and make it even more relevant in your everyday life, so that you can start seeing the manifestations of these techniques and concepts as they really work. So I'm excited about what's happening. I believe that what's coming is better than what's been, and I believe that this week is going to be a great week for all of us. And so for all of us on this call, I want you to definitely continue to operate and apply these lessons, these teachings to your life. It's not just to listen to these calls and listen to these teachings, but to apply it, to use it. As the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman will always say, it works if you work it. I want to thank all of you for calling and being on this call today. Before we leave, I'd like to say this one thing. Your destiny is not a matter of chance, but it's a matter of choice. Thank you, and until we meet again.